All right, we're going to get started in about 15 minutes if you're just joining us. So grab some coffee and get situated. If you want to, in the chat box, you can go ahead and put your name, where you're from, what company you work with. We'd love to hear where you're from, and you can actually start putting questions in there as well. We will also be doing Q&A at the end of the presentation as well. All right, well, as you guys are coming in, if you're just joining us, please put your name, where you're from in the chat box. Love to hear where you're from, what company you work with, and we will get started in about 14 minutes. Mindy with PureClean. What part of the country are you from, Mindy? All right, if more of you are continuing to come in, go ahead and put your name and where you're from and what company you work with in the chat box. We're going to go ahead and get started in about 13 minutes. Chicago. Hey, Mindy, do you know somebody from PureClean Corporate named Scott Sandell? He's a good friend of mine. He works at PureClean. He used to work for ServPro Industries. And anyway, I know he works in business development or something nationwide, but he lives in Nashville now. But good guy, doing a lot of really cool things for PureClean as well. All right, if you're just joining us too, as more people are coming into the room, I love seeing you guys come in so early. You guys are proactive. So, but yeah, go ahead and leave your name, where you're from in the chat box, and we'll get started in about 12 minutes. All right, as many of you are continuing to come in, go ahead and put your name and where you're from. We're going to get started in about 10 minutes. And we will be recording this as well, so if you don't make it or somebody on your team wants to see it later, we'll send out a link to the replay this afternoon as well. All right, many more of you are continuing to come in. I'm going to go ahead and actually put a poll up for you guys to just interact with. We are continuing to do more and more webinars because of requests. It's unbelievable that how many hundreds of people are signing up for these webinars. And here it is, like, we don't know everything, but we want to make sure that, you know, we can share anything that we know. And again, if you have questions and you don't feel like we have the answer for them, feel free to reach out to us at any time. We will more than likely can find somebody in the country or the world that can maybe answer particular questions for you. So you're more than welcome to ask us anything. But if you are just joining us, go ahead and put your name, where you're from, and there. I'm going to go ahead and put a poll up for you guys, and I'm going to leave it up until we get started. But it basically just says, you know, what are some of the areas that you need the most education and direction? And I put some different options on there: commercial sales, digital marketing, industry education, ongoing COVID-19 training, safety guidelines from OSHA regulations, IRCRC, and how to educate your clients versus selling to them. Feel free to pick one of those or any of them. It's anonymous, so nobody will see what you're picking. But it definitely, as we develop more content in the future, we want to make sure that we kind of get your feedback on what areas. And you're welcome to email us anytime if there's particular webinars or things that you want to learn more about. So. Hey, Eddie, are you there?
I am here, but you're going to have to start my video for me. It said the host stopped the video.
Hold on one second.
And as a panelist, does it give me the ability to share my screen?
Actually, it does. I just moved you to the primary host, so I actually don't have access. Eddie, if you could switch me back to host so I can do that for you. You go over to the right in the panelist section, hit more, and then just move. You logged in under my account.
Okay, just a second. And show. It's for whatever reason, it's not letting me. There we go.
I put a poll up, Eddie, just asking some of the areas that people want to learn more information on. Can you promote me back to the main host, Eddie, real quick?
How do I do that?
Over in the panelists, go to the right of your name, and it should have a drop down or next to me, and you can say promote to host.
Okay, done.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So as you're coming in, go ahead and leave your name and where you're from. We'd love to hear what part of the country you're from. And we have a poll up as well. So if you are just joining us, feel free to select areas that you might want to learn more information as we develop some more curriculum for webinars moving forward. So lots of you are putting some good information in there. So we're more than happy to address and build out more training in those areas. Today's going to be a really good one. On employees versus professionals doing this type of cleaning on a routine basis. So definitely, if you are just joining us, I know we just had a big surplus of people come in. Feel free to put your name, where you're from, in the chat box, and we'll get started in about 5 minutes. Eddie, you might want to go to full presentation mode because you're in presenter mode right now. so everybody can kind of see the next slide. So you can actually change that where it's full screen on there. So.
Where do I do
From
that?
Calgary, nice to meet you. Joe from Service Master in Wisconsin. You guys still getting cold weather in Wisconsin? We're in Oklahoma, and it's supposed to get down to freezing again this week, which is weird because it was almost 100 degrees yesterday.
Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Sean, is that better?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay.
Wow. Joe said, Eddie, he had some flurries still, 1 to 3 inches coming Sunday.
Are you serious? That's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah. I love Wisconsin. I actually spent a lot of time up by Rice Lake, Eau Claire, at a place called Long Lake. And I used to spend every summer up there when I was growing up. Unbelievable, beautiful. And it's amazing how many celebrities escape up there because the population is so spread out, and absolutely amazing up there. All right, if you're just joining us, we have a poll up on the screen too. We're basically just kind of fielding like what areas of education you guys might want to learn more on in the future as well. So we put some different topics up there. Again, if you have topics that you want to learn about, feel free to throw that in the chat box as well. But feel free to go ahead and vote there before we get started on some of the areas that you would like to see more education direction in long term. Today's subject, I'm super excited to have Eddie do this today. It seems to be a very big issue right now with employees. If you've been to Walmart, Target, gas station, you see these employees constantly doing this type of cleanup. And, if you really look at the guidelines and the standards by OSHA and the IRCRC, they're not qualified to do this type of cleaning. So, a lot of the issues right now we're seeing in that pushback is, oh, we don't have enough money. We don't have the budget to do that. But, some of these facilities are making record profits right now with everything else being shut down. So I'm going to let Eddie dive into that when we get started, but very excited to talk about this today. Chris from Flood Response in Thousand Palms, California, Coachella Valley. Is that where the Coachella Festival is every year? Yes, Kevin, this is just us seeing you. It's just with so many people on this webinar, it would get really crazy if we had everybody live and on camera. So, oh, it's a field hospital now. Wow, that's really cool that they've mobilized for that. Kevin says still better. Yeah, it's not. I do that all the time when I join a webinar or something. If I feel like I'm left out or something like that. But yeah, we can see all the attendees on our end, and it just allows for privacy and things like that. Tracy, good morning. Tracy's a good friend of ours. Been on a lot of webinars lately. We love having you. So thank you so much, Tracy. But yeah, if you are just joining us right now, we're going to get started in a couple minutes. Go ahead and use the poll in different areas that you might want to learn more topics on. We are going to be doing more webinars in the next few weeks, and this just kind of gives us a gauge of what areas to put that focus in. A lot of you are picking how to educate your clients versus selling to them. Eddie, that's going to be a good topic. I think we need to, we definitely can expand on that. We're going to touch on that a little bit today, but that's been our whole mantra when it comes to restoration sales. We're very big on carrying out educating.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, whenever I came into the restoration industry, it was really the reason I became an educator versus a salesperson was out of ignorance, to be real honest with you, because I didn't know enough of the industry speak and enough of the technical aspect of it. I had to figure out a way to be able to get my clients to understand, and as well as for me to understand. And it became more, since it is really, you're not technically selling anything, it's more of a relationship building process unless you're on a priority response. Education became key to the successes that I had. All right, it is 11 o'clock. Sean, do you want to give them a couple more minutes, or do we want to get started?
Yeah, everybody's starting to pull in. We'll wait about 1 more minute. I see many of you are just joining us right now. Go ahead, put your name, where you're from in the chat box, and we'll give you a shout out. We are going to get started. If you are just joining us, we put a poll up on the screen. We really want to get some feedback from you guys on what areas you want to learn more in, and I'll share the results from that poll in just a second. But this is something, we've been very passionate about. We've done 4 webinars, it's our 4th one this week. And we're seeing it to be a lot of value for those of you out there that might not have access to training and things like that. So we want to continue to develop content that you guys are looking for. So your feedback is incredibly important for us so we can develop curriculum and more training based on the need. Again, we don't have all the answers, but we want to at least have a conversation, allow you guys to chime in and provide that feedback as well. So, go ahead and pick one of their selections on what areas you feel like you'd like to see more education. I'm going to share that in a few minutes once Eddie gets started. Hey, Holly from Portland, Maine. James from Restoration One. Mindy just said hi again from Pure Clean Chicago. We have Raymond, project manager in ServPro in Henry and Randolph counties in Indiana. Nice to meet you. Kelly from ServPro. Nice to meet you as well. So, again, if you're joining us, we're going to go ahead and get started right now. If you see that poll up on your screen, go ahead and pick what areas you'd like to continue to see us put out content for. We pretty much will cover most of them, but I definitely want to see where you guys are tracking on this webinar. A lot of you are picking how to educate your clients versus selling them. So absolutely, those are some topics we're going to focus on. Commercial sales is another big one. That's our passion, our background. So Eddie, again, if you're just joining us, leave your name, where you're from. Hi, Jonathan from Jarvis Properties. Nice to meet you. I know we just spoke to Bill yesterday, so we're excited to be working with you guys down in Florida. Jillian from Alpine, nice to meet you. Lee from Service Master. Jake from Restoration One, nice to meet you down in Austin, Texas. All right, guys, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to leave the poll up for about another minute if you want to select one of those areas that you'd like to see us develop more education and content for. But I'm going to go ahead and let Eddie get started today on positioning COVID-19 cleaning for employees versus professionals.
Thank you very much, Sean. And guys, welcome to the webinar. Good morning, good afternoon, all depending upon what region of the country you're in. We're so excited to have you guys on here today. And based on the polls, it really, I know Sean probably echoes my sentiment about the fact that it looks like the 2 leading things are A, commercial sales, and B, how to educate versus sell. Just kind of give you guys a little bit of a background. First off, tier level, we are a niche-based digital marketing agency for the restoration industry. And the reason that we are niche-based for the restoration industry is because our backgrounds are heavy in restoration. Sean worked for ServPro Corporate and also too for franchise location. I was director of business development for a top 20 ServPro franchise location, growing them by millions of dollars, predominantly through commercial sales and being a commercial sales specialist. So the way that I did that, because I didn't come from restoration, is through education. And Sean and I's mantra is to out care and out educate. That is what is going to be the differentiation between you and the competition. But right now, guys, we are here as one community. We are here as colleagues. We are Restoration Nation because we are out to serve a country and provide us that is hurting and that is scared. And you guys have all of the necessary tools in your chest to be able to calm fears and to be able to be that servant's heart. So we're glad that you're here, and we're going to go ahead and get started on positioning COVID-19. So first off, it is very important, guys, that whenever you take a look at COVID-19, that you are leading into communication with your prospective clients through educational conversation. What keeps them up at night? What scares them? What challenges are they facing? And how can you be a solution to their problem? Ultimately, that's what this is about. This is about being a solution. A lot of people now, we have a lot of business development professionals, sales professionals that are on here that really don't know how to go about getting in front of the correct centers of influence right now, because you're not you don't have the opportunities to be able to go out and get in front of them. So you're going to have to use and be creative and be out of the box, and use your digital resources, the company websites, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, anything that you can potentially do to be able to not only find who the correct center of influence is, but also to be able to converse with them. I'm going to tell you right now, people are a captive audience because we are in shelter in place for the most part. The decision makers are in front of their computers running their day-to-day business operations. So being able to engage them right now is easier than ever. I have been very lucky and blessed. I've made restoration calls for a lot of our clients to be able to help position COVID-19. And I've had a 100% response rate from any of the centers of influence that I've reached out to. Whether it was risk management for companies like Microsoft and the FAA, or even all the way down to grocery store chains, whether it was getting in front of assisted living directors, whether it was going through the organizational involvement, which is going to be a key target that I didn't list on here, but utilizing your involvement in the organizations to be able to send out your information as more of a peer-to-peer, as opposed to coming from the restoration company directly to where it looks like you're trying to sell them or trying to exploit the situation, because ultimately that's what we want to avoid. We don't want to look like we're trying to exploit the situation. And, I really hope you're not. The margins, even at like 15 cents per square foot on preventative Cat 1 cleaning, I've talked to several facilities that they're still operating at 60 to 70% margin, even at those prices. So let's talk first, before we even get into the logistics of employees versus the other people. We want to get into some of the immediate gratification targets that you potentially have right now. The targets that you're going to approach it much the same way you would storm or any catastrophic event, because you're going to focus on the things first that don't close. So like your grocery stores, your pharmacies, your daycares, government facilities. We even here in Tulsa had our local news station shut down for 2 days because one of the anchors was diagnosed with COVID-19. So they had to shut down for 2 days for Cat 3 cleaning. The airports, restaurants, assisted living, municipalities. I've talked to some of the restoration contractors that as a service, they are cleaning the police cars and the ambulances for them daily, trying to protect those first responders. So you have all kinds of opportunities that are out there right now, and would be interested in this peer-to-peer sharing moment of how you guys are, maybe some of them that we forgot to be able to list on here, on some successes and things that you have had. Now, restaurants I put there as immediate gratification, but it also too can pull back into a long tail process too, because the restaurant facility itself is shut down with the exception of curbside. So some of your longer tail processes that you can go into, schools, universities, I know hotels should probably be on immediate gratification. I've seen a lot of hotels that are renting their rooms out as either day or weekly office spaces. And, we'll get into the logistics of why you need to be going in there and offering cleaning services versus their housekeeping department. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. But if you guys have ideas of some of the places that you have had success and being able to go out there, please share them with the group, because again, this is all about community and this is all about colleagues on this call.
And I put a poll up for you guys to pick the targets that you feel are the hardest to get in front of right now. I see many of you are responding, but that way maybe Eddie can address some of the areas that you guys are picking and maybe give you some pointers on some creative ways to get in front of them as well.
Absolutely. So let's just go ahead and we're not going to go through every single one of them, but a lot of people, a lot of the downfalls that I see with business development teams across the United States that we meet with is that they do spend a lot of time giving great presentations, but they're not presenting to the correct center of influence, therefore it's falling on deaf ears. You can present to the general manager of a hotel, but do you know whether or not the general manager of that hotel is the person that's actually going to be be responsible for writing the $1 million check? Are they locally owned? Are they regionally owned? Are they nationally owned? Well, the same thing with grocery stores. You can go present to the store director or the manager or the shift supervisor, but ultimately in the grocery stores that I have dealt with across the United States, I've dealt almost predominantly with the risk manager. He's going to be the gentleman that's going to be making those loss calls, that are determining the high level risk assessments for the store, what those inherent risks should be, and making all of the mitigation calls. But you might not be able to get in front of him. You're sending him messages via LinkedIn. You need to remember that he's being bombarded by restoration companies and cleaning companies and janitorial companies, but also too that they have the mantra, and we'll get into this in the objection phase, that they're saying, we've reduced our hours so that our employees can restock and do routine preventative cleaning. And we'll get into that here in just a little bit. It looks like in the poll that municipalities are going to be the one that is going to be driving the bus on where they're getting the biggest bang for their buck. Make sure that you're going in through purchasing and the city manager to be able to talk, because you could garner not only just the police cars and the ambulances, but you could do all of their buildings. I know I worked in conjunction with a Philadelphia restoration provider who signed the contract for the city of Philadelphia, and he had 90 facilities to clean in a certain amount of time. So he needed to empower some of his colleagues, and they took down the barriers so that they were able to assist the city of Philadelphia. And now it's been identified as one of the up and coming COVID-19 hotspots. So there's going to be more and more work for him. So thank you guys for the polls. But if you need some assistance on trying to find out who the correct center of influence is going to be in these locations, or who would be the CEO of the problem. And let me explain that real quick before we move on. Say, for example, it is a Walmart location. You're never going to see a Walton show up on a loss or sign off on your work authorization. They have appointed someone to be able to mitigate those issues, and that is going to be the CEO of the problem. So don't always think that you necessarily have to start at the top. But by asking probing questions, even if you go in front of the store director, it could result in a warm handoff to the correct center of influence. So let's look at the potential objections that I know you guys are getting. And again, I want to hear some of them that we may not have listed. When you're looking at the objections, you're going to get things everywhere from "you're too expensive." We have our employees or our staff that's trying to do it. You are trying to exploit a situation. Stop marketing us. Cleaning is not going to help. We'll have our janitorial company do the cleaning, which is one that I've heard a lot lately, that they're empowering janitorial companies to come in and do this. And I would be interested to hear in what some of these objections that we may not have listed that you're encountering. You're too expensive. I think that's an easy one to overcome. I don't think that you can put a price on safety, and it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. If people come in and you're competitively priced, you're not $4 a square foot, for preventative measure cleaning. And I have heard companies that are trying to do that for Cat 1 cleaning. I think that's ludicrous, and they should be taken out back and flogged, in my opinion. But it is because you should be competitive in the market space, but you cannot put a price. This is an evolving virus, and it's going to take subject matter experts like yourself that are trained in the appropriate protocol. And we'll talk about what that protocol is when attacking COVID-19. But you have a little bit of overhead that you have to do, but you can't put a price on safety. Let's talk about, because we're going to get into this in the next slide, about the employees and the staff. I'm going to give you some objections or some rebuttals for that objection that you're going to have that are going to put you on the educational forefront. In fact, this was the documentation I'm going to show you was the same conversation that I had with a risk manager over a 19 facility grocery store chain here in Northeast Oklahoma. And his response was, "Wow, I never thought about it like that." And I handed that to a restoration provider to clean all 19 stores on a weekly basis. So you're trying to exploit the situation. no more than a heart surgeon is trying to exploit a situation when you need to have heart surgery. You are the subject matter experts. This is what you are trained and qualified to do. Therefore, you need to make sure that you are presenting this in an educational way, and we'll show you some ideas of how to do that to where we've had some successes. And again, want to hear from peer mentalities of some of the ways that you've overcome these objections. Cleaning won't help. Sean will echo this right now, and I'm going to let him speak a little bit about it here in just a second. You have to be very, very careful in the verbiage that you are presenting to these prospective clients. I've seen restoration companies that have put out flyers that have guaranteed things. Please do not do that. OSHA has made statements that they are watching the verbiage that restoration and cleaning companies are putting out, and that after this all settles down, they are going to be going after these companies because nobody at this point is a subject matter expert on COVID-19, not the World Health Organization, not the CDC. It's continuing to evolve. Sean, you want to expand a little bit on what you need to be careful when you present?
Yeah, so it's very important that you don't make guarantees and you don't make assumptions, because the minute you clean a facility, uh, regardless of how well you fog it, wipe it down, and do a square inch by square inch cleaning, um, the minute somebody walks in that potentially has the COVID-19 virus can recontaminate that facility or that space almost immediately, just from coughing and having that, or touching, or they're just making any contact with the hard surfaces, and then that can spread very quickly. So it is very important that you do not make any claims like that. You know, like the CDC and OSHA and all these different guidelines that are available, the IRA, you know, some of the industry specific association, it's very important to be reading them on a daily basis, especially in this time, because things are changing. They're learning new things about this virus on a daily basis. So I highly recommend that. One thing, just to kind of back up before we get to the objection, and this kind of happened to me on accident because we've been doing these webinar series, is the Chamber of Commerce and one of the sub-regions of Tulsa reached out to me about doing basically just a marketing seminar via webinar for all of the chamber members for the business. This is something, and I noticed all the chambers locally are doing this, and I'm not a big chamber person because I hate the way, you know, it seems like a lot of times it's just a lot of social, you know, just networking for people that want to get out of work. But what I really like about it right now is we have a captive audience. We have all these businesses, many of them are shut down. We don't know exactly when the economy and the market's going to open back up. But if the chamber is looking for that content, this gives you a chance to really go out and use some of what we're talking about today about why employees should not be doing this, why your janitorial company might not be equipped to do this, and things like that. We just did another poll, and I'm going to share the results real quick on some of the biggest objections that you guys are getting. The number one that you guys picked was janitorial companies already doing it. The second was employees are doing it. Cleaning won't help, some of you picked. There's some other ones. If there are other objections you're getting, put it in the Q&A or chat box. We'd love to address those. Price is definitely going to be out there. But like Eddie was saying, overall, you have to be extremely, extremely careful that you're not saying anything that are not within the guidelines of the CDC, World Health Organization, OSHA. A lot of that is the similar same protocol that we've known for years with infectious disease cleanup. So, you know, a lot of times revert to that training, but continue to educate yourself on a daily basis. It's changing very fast. I can guarantee you in 2 weeks, they're going to have a lot more information on what they recommend and what they don't recommend. So it's very important that you guys continue to educate yourselves with the resources that are available online as well.
And I think whenever you're looking at this, you know, the janitorial company is doing it, is leading the poll right now. I think that that's whenever you have to get into doing some discovery on your own about what they're capable of doing, much like a lot of carpet cleaning companies. And I'm not going to say this as a blanket statement because some of the carpet cleaning companies are very large, or they do due diligence and go get all of their IICRC certifications for WRT and things like that. They're able to do that. But I think that it's really important that on the discovery process that you guys are asking the relevant questions of, you know, do you mind me asking if the janitorial company is using one of the 287 approved chemicals for mitigating COVID-19? Do they have IICRC bio or bloodborne pathogen certifications? Do they have any type of OSHA or HAZWOP training? Because even though that there is no way that you can guarantee, the only way that you could guarantee that COVID-19 is going to be stopped is that if you were to go in and do a 3-step complete total bloodborne pathogen style or mold remediation style cleaning and then seal the building and nobody else can get in until this is all over. That would really be the only way, because you can't guarantee, just like in a mold remediation, you cannot guarantee that you're going to pass the post test, because you don't know whether or not their employees are going to be nosing around and break containment. There's all those kinds of things. The verbiage that you're trying to use is that you are minimizing risk. You are trying to minimize impact by doing routine cleanings by professionals. So we appreciate you guys doing the polls and all of those. And like I said, if you guys would like individual coaching on presentation style, overcoming those objections, Sean and I's information will be here at the end of the presentation. So let's go ahead.
What do you say? Because we're getting a lot of that too. Employees are already doing that. I know you're going to address that now, and that was one of the biggest responses here. So we can kind of jump right into that, because I know that's kind of one of the biggest ones we're seeing nationwide is, and we're seeing it. If you just go to Walmart or Target, you see the employees with no PPE, no face mask. Sometimes I'm seeing them without gloves, wiping down shopping carts. And I think this is an extreme liability to these companies that are making record profits right now that are in need to be open businesses. So Eddie, I'll let you kind of start to expand on that.
Sure. So this conversation, and actually this entire webinar, came to fruition because of the conversations that I was having on these phone calls and in Zoom meetings, which I do want to back up just a second, because Sean hit on something. And if you guys hear some noises back there, I apologize. My hardwood floors are being installed today. My personal house flooded, so if you hear some noises going, I'm trying to keep those to a minimum, but I can't stop those guys from working. So anyway, the situation is Sean had mentioned, utilizing the technology that we have for an educational resource, rather than going out and doing like mass blasts of saying, hey, we're open, we can do this for X amount of money. You need to start with the why. I think Simon Sinek said it best in starting with the why. Offer to be a keynote speaker or lead Zoom meetings to your organizations like the Restaurant Association, hospital engineers, school plant managers, the hotel and lodging, your assisted living associations. Offer to host webinars for those organizations to speak over COVID-19 and the mitigation behind it. I think that that's really key to having success, because what it does is position you as that subject matter expert and being able to get out there and do that. Just like I said, I used this analogy before. You're not going to walk into a doctor's office and tell him to get out of the way. You're going to do the heart surgery for him, because he is the one that has the training and all of that. And so when you position yourself for COVID-19 cleaning, it needs to be in an educational way, proving that you have the subject matter expertise to be able to handle the problem at hand. So let's get into why this objection of, that our employees are doing it, our staff is doing it, and some of the liabilities that are involved. So why would you use a restoration company to do your preventative cleaning versus your employees? Well, basically, the solution seems simple, and I'm going to read a little bit of this and then I'll elaborate on it. You've reduced your operational hours. Home Depot, Walmart, your grocery store chains, pharmacies, they've reduced their operational hours so the employees can restock and do preventative measure cleaning on the facility. So they're utilizing their labor force. They're providing a safe environment for the patrons, employees, and families, right? No, absolutely not. They are not providing a safe environment for me as a patron to go shop in there, which is the conversation that I had with the risk manager at the grocery store. I was very blunt and told him, I said, if your employees are doing the cleaning, I don't feel safe shopping here. And here's the reason. COVID-19 has been documented as the fastest spreading virus in the modern era. It's complicated, it's intricate, it's tricky, and it's resistant to some chemicals, and thorough cleaning is required to be able to mitigate it. So here are the inherent problems. The employees are not trained in infectious disease control. They don't have the proper chemical application. They don't understand the methods of cleaning, and they don't have the appropriate PPE. Case in point, I saw a bank that was wiping down everything with Windex. Employees weren't wearing gloves. We just had a local, very big company here in the Midwest called Quick Trip that took and had a 21-year-old employee pass away from COVID-19 because he was a person that was responsible for doing the routine cleanings in that store. And that is highly unfortunate, but speaks volumes to this point. He had no idea. He was over his skis. He had no idea what to do and how to do it. And you do. As restoration professionals, you are trained in biotrauma and hazmat cleanup, bloodborne pathogen. That is, in fact, what OSHA and CDC guidelines are stating at this point, that if there has been an identified COVID-19 case on site, which, in my opinion, we have to assume that these places that do not close, such as grocery stores, hardware stores, pharmacies, have had an identified COVID-19 case in their facility. Reason being is because of the gestation rate. You're looking at it can be carried for up to 14 days and can live on hard surfaces for as long as 24 days. So you have to believe that there has been, with the thousands of people crossing the thresholds of these businesses, that there has or will be a COVID-19 case that walks through those doors. So what happens to the employees? Well, one, they're putting their entire company at liability for either an employee or a patron to get sick. They are, in fact, there was a company here that is being sued because their employee was forced to do the cleaning. Secondly, they're trained to work at this place. So if they start losing their workforce, you don't just bring someone in off the street to be able to do what they did in a day. So, the workforce starts to diminish in the places that are open. Secondly, as I said before, the financial aspect of it. How many lawsuits can a company incur when you're being forced to do something you're not trained to do, and the result is you get sick? The company is at risk for financial liability for those employees by forcing them to do something they're not trained to do. So the other thing is that you have to treat those facilities as if there has already been a COVID-19 case due to the dormancy rate and how many people that walk through the door. And you need a company that is highly trained in these types of cleanings to minimize this risk. Basically, what you tell them is, look, we're not here just to be another vendor. We shop here. We spend our money here too. We want to partner with your organization to assist you with the expertise that we have so that you as management can focus on what matters, which is your business, your employees. Leave the cleaning to the professionals, to the people that are trained to do it. We care about you and we're ready and we're only here to help you. Okay. If you will present it in a servant's heart mentality rather than how do I make a quick buck, it could make all the difference in the world. But the education that you provide in that presentation is what is going to help you win in the trenches, hands down. By knowing what to talk about and how to talk about it. I will use it the majority. And like I said, if you're a carpet cleaning company who has spent the money to get your IICRC certifications and you know the science of restoration and drying, then this does not apply to you. But how many times do we talk to apartment complexes as commercial salespeople that say, no, if we have a flood in an apartment, we just have our carpet cleaning company do it. And you walk in there and they've sucked the water out of the carpet and they put an air mover on it. There's no dehumidification. They haven't moisture mapped it. They haven't done these things. Same thing applies to this and involving a janitorial company. They may not be trained in the application of the proprietary chemicals and in bloodborne pathogen, infectious disease control, yet they're out there doing the cleaning, and that's where you're shopping. And personally, I don't feel safe to be able to shop in a facility that doesn't care any more about their business or their patrons than to let somebody who doesn't know what they're doing do the cleaning. So it sounds very brash. It sounds very aggressive, but that is the truth of the matter. You could get sick. because they're allowing people to do it that don't know what they're doing. Sean, do you have anything to add to that before we move on?
No, no, that's absolutely right. And I mean, it's really gets to the point where you have to kind of paint that picture and you really have to put out there the liability and the risk that's out there. But at the same time, you have to protect yourself, like we talked about earlier. You have to make sure that you're not setting yourself up, because you guys can go in and do the best cleaning job in the world, and then somebody gets sick a week later and they're already trying to come back and blame it. This is a very difficult time. This is not the easiest of things to position and sell. I'm going to be completely honest with you, because the minute you clean, and a lot of these stores are open, but I mean, we're talking about minimizing risk, right? We're minimizing that opportunity. We're not saying you're not going to get it or have cases here, but I can tell you right now, doing different types of fogging and professional wipe downs, and especially just looking at shopping carts that are being touched around the clock in Walmarts and Targets and these facilities. And I mean, it's unbelievable. Like some of the protocols. I was in the Quick Trip gas station the other day. They're still serving hot dogs and have all these community dishes for relish and ketchup and all these things. And it's like, I was in there for like 2 or 3 minutes, and it was like 3 or 4 different people used them in the span of a few minutes. So I think, these are things that, that they might not be quite aware of. They're so focused on their profits right now. They're not really thinking about the health of their employees. And I think long term, we're going to see a lot of these companies are going to have some serious legal ramifications because they didn't protect their employees. And again, we've never been through something like this at this magnitude with the media hype and everything else. Yeah, the death toll is not even more than the flu for the first 4 months of this year, or 3.5 months. But it's still like there's so much uncertainty, we don't know, and that's what makes this scary. But I think as restoration professionals, we are positioned to be the best educational resource when it comes to being preventative, as much as preventative as we can, and minimizing that risk as well. So, Eddie.
Well, and I think also too that you're going to have to look at this as a forest through the trees mentality, because the one thing that is the hardest obstacle to overcome in the commercial world is and restoration sales is becoming a trusted strategic partner with organizations for business continuity and for the success of the business that you are representing. Reason being is because there's too many people out there doing it wrong, and you're having to overcome that stigma of being the company that's not going to come in, do too much demo, place too much equipment, bill too high, be able to do all of the wrong things. You're here to represent the restoration industry by being a subject matter expert, be an elite restorer, understand the science of what it is that you're doing, and be able to articulate that, because you are building a foundation for future business as well by doing the right thing, by charging within acceptable rates, by being an educational resource, by being a servant's heart. This will lead to the mitigation work. This will lead to long-term relationships rather than being a one and done. These companies that are out there overcharging, trying to take advantage and exploit this situation, are not going to be the company that these companies are going to call when this is all said and done. So position yourself. You get the opportunity right now through your expertise to be this nation's superhero, and I challenge you to go be that superhero for these people.
All right, well, now we want to
go ahead.
Some questions. If you guys have questions, use the chat box, the Q&A box. Would love to hear what questions you guys have, and maybe even issues or objections you've been getting. I know some of you picked other when we pulled that poll up, but now I would love to hear some questions that you guys have that we can answer for you. All right, Lee just said, how do you get past the health inspector? Ours in the area is just telling places to wait 14 days and they don't need any company to come in and clean. Good question.
Okay. Lee, that's a great question. My first question would be, are these the companies that are coming in they're telling you to wait 14 days? Are these the companies that are actively doing business every single day? That would be the first question I would have for the health inspector, because the 14-day dormancy rate just is talking about carriers as people. And now they've even found that it's transmitting or being affecting animals now. And all of this. So you do see the virus is evolving. I would just question the health inspector and ask him, what is his reasoning for wanting to wait 14 days? Being able to come in and minimize risk you could be looking at in 14 days, it could move from a Cat 1 to a Cat 3. Doing just preventative routine measure cleaning prevents the virus, or not prevents, but minimizes the virus from spreading, and protects the patrons that are walking through the doors each and every day. So, I personally don't understand the logic and would have to get an explanation from the health department as to why, and what their logic process was in coming up with that reasoning, because I think they're doing a disservice in setting that client up for potential liability and failure, by doing so.
Yeah, and I think it's very important when you run into those situations with like somebody like a health inspector, or any type of agency, ask questions. Well, how are you recommending that this business protects that liability? Because if we go 14 days and bring up resources like OSHA guidelines, like Eddie, why don't you talk a little bit about the OSHA guidelines that say proper HAZWOPER training is necessary when you're dealing with a virus at this level?
Right. Whenever you're looking at category 3 trainings or category 3 cleaning, which is going to be, there has been an identified COVID-19 case on site or multiple cases on site. The CDC is recommending that there is some sort of OSHA or HAZWOPER training for hazardous material cleanup at that point in time. And there could potentially be legal ramifications involved in companies that don't possess those certifications. As of right now, it has not been mandated. It is strictly a recommendation. But the thing about it being a captive audience, your HAZWOPER and ICRA certifications can both be obtained online. You don't have to require, you don't get it, and it only requires that one person within the organization has their HAZWOPER, and would be overseeing that project and the direct report signing off on that project. So the IICRC standard that was put out by the RIA states that the bloodborne pathogen IICRC or bio training would be relevant in this situation as well. So it's important this is evolving, so that could change tomorrow, but it is important that you stay involved in companies like in the websites like the World Health Organization, the CDC, the RIA, IICRC, any of those types of things that you can do to keep yourself educated and on the forefront of any of those changes that may take place.
Another question for you, Eddie. Anna said, how are people pricing these? We have heard so many different square footage dollar amounts. What is fair? And Eddie, I think we kind of jabbled with what's fair, what's not fair, but I'll kind of let you share what you feel is kind of that middle of the road. What we're seeing is somewhat ethical, but
sure,
you share that.
Yeah, I think that whenever you look at it, the first thing it's on a case by case basis. I think, when you're dealing with square footage issues, it's all going to boil down to what do you feel are fair and acceptable margins for you to be able to do business. And on Cat 1 preventative measure cleaning, I've seen it anywhere from 12 cents a square foot up to about 60 cents a square foot, all depending upon the region and what that region demands as far as pricing is concerned. On category 2, which is where there is a suspected COVID-19 case, a little bit deeper cleaning, but not an identified COVID-19 case, I've seen it anywhere from 60 cents to about $1.15 a square foot. And on Cat 3, where there have been identified either one case or multiple cases or diagnosed cases on site, I've seen it anywhere from like $1.15 to in upwards of $2 a square foot, because you are going through full hazmat protocol on Cat 3 cleaning. So the best thing to do is take a look at the square footage, the amount of chemical usage you would be, how much PPE and consumables you're going to use, as well as what your labor costs are going to be. And I would probably say if you're operating anywhere from 50 to 70% margin, then you are right in line with about where everyone else is nationally.
And most of the bigger players right now, and I'm not trying to say this to sound like any type of taking advantage of any businesses right now, but most restoration companies are treating this as Cat 2 and up right now, mostly for the ability to protect their employees. So, I mean, that's one thing. I talked to a local restoration company here in Oklahoma this week, and they're employees. They haven't had any that have gotten sick because they've been taking proper protocol to make sure, that they are going in full PPE and making sure they're staying safe. So that's definitely something to put out there. You have to protect your workforce, because if they get sick, who's going to do the cleaning? Tracy Burrows shared a really good comment here. Says, I'm in New York and finding so many non-competitors getting involved in COVID-19 cleaning who are not trained or certified. This information is key to present to my clients. They continue to hire the wrong professional. We have been able to land multiple cleanings, but most of them are not our typical customers. Tracy, I appreciate you sharing that, because when any crisis like this happens, you see a lot of people try to exploit and capitalize on situations like this. So they're like, oh, I can buy some bleach, I can, put a mask on and go out and offer this type of cleaning, because everybody's scared of it right now. It's very important to educate your clients that this is something you as a restoration professional have been doing for many years. Beyond COVID-19, we've been involved in doing other types of cleaning. Document those projects that you've worked on in the past, and make sure you share that validation, client testimony, things like that. Make sure you present yourself as a credible company to do that type of work. So thank you.
Well, I think it's probably really important that that you utilize past experiences about the fact that you've probably done MRSA, SARS, which this is a derivative of SARS. So it is, you've done infectious disease control. Again, it is going to be really important that you spend time, and this is where a lot of restoration professionals, sales restoration professionals fail, is because they are unwilling to engage in meaningful dialogue and have difficult conversations with the prospective client. You have to ask, if you don't mind me asking, do you know what type of certifications the companies that you're working with right now hold? Because, my concern for you is that they're charging you to come do a service that they're not qualified to do. And if they're not qualified to do it, then the result is going to be failure, hands down. It is going to be failure. Just because your Uncle Bob has a shop vac and a fan doesn't mean he knows the science of water mitigation. Granted, yeah, he got the water up, the water out of the floor, and he's got a fan drying the surface area of the carpet fiber. But did he check the sill plates? Did he check inside the wall cavities? Did he use dehumidification in conjunction with this? So it is very, very important that you exercise that subject matter expertise that you guys have and that you have done for years. Not necessarily to malign these companies, but to prove that you guys are the qualified personnel to be doing the job.
Anna also asked, how much are people paying extra to their employees on Cat 3 cleaning? Eddie, you can address this too, what you've seen maybe in the past with the operators you've worked with. I think, I've talked to several owners, and they're definitely taking care of their employees in this time. I think it really comes down to an ownership. If you're making great margins on a Cat 2, Cat 3 type cleaning, create incentives, especially in this time when these people are putting their lives on the line and they're out on the front line doing this type of work and still going home to their family. You want to make sure they're taken care of, because it's something, this business is not for everyone. And the people that work hard, I'm not saying reward all employees just for showing up, but if somebody proactively taking that step forward to, put that information out or to work for you on your behalf and going into the lion's den where these viruses could be potentially present, I think it's important that you just make sure you take care of them. And I think we're going to see across the country, how leaders and CEOs and business owners treat their employees in this time is going to say a lot about those companies, because it's a tough time. People are laying off people, they're shutting their doors. This is a very good time to be a humanizing component for those businesses, to not fight. Look, everybody's in a similar boat right now, and I'm not saying that's an excuse, but where can you be your best? Where can you take care of the people you work for? So when we get past this, which we will get past it, how strong will our company be then? Because you take care of somebody in a crisis like this nationwide, you're more than likely going to be building a relationship with that employee that's going to last a lifetime or a very long time for your company.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add to what Sean just said. I think that, it's just, you look at it on a case by case basis. It's my opinion is that in order for businesses to be successful is that you spread the wealth and you take care of the people that take care of you. So if they're out there and you're finding that the majority of your cleanings are Cat 3, understand the inherent risks that are involved. You as a business owner, if you're not actually out having to go do the work and you've got a really nice operation to where you get to sit behind an office desk, remember that they are in fact putting their lives on the line. Incentivize them accordingly. Your margins are as such that you can do so. But again, I think it would be on a case by case basis. But, I've always believed as a business operator that you take care of those who take care of you.
Well, great. Is there any more questions? Go ahead and put them in the chat box or in the Q&A box. We will continue to answer a few more questions if you guys have them. We're getting some good feedback from you guys. I hope this is extremely helpful. We are very excited to continue to do more webinars to provide value and resources to this industry. It's a huge passion of ours. I'm going to put the poll up. Actually, sharing the poll again. I was going to relaunch the poll. Basically, just asking for different areas. I put the poll back up again. Just different areas that you might want to learn more on, and you can go ahead and pick your choices there. I think you can pick more than one too, but commercial sales, digital marketing, industry education, ongoing COVID-19 training, safety guidelines, how to educate your clients versus selling to them. We can expand a lot more in these different areas of focus. So would love to see your feedback and any areas that you would like to learn more. Are there any other questions? Like I said, feel free to put them in the chat box or the Q&A box. We really appreciate the feedback that we're getting from some of you. Again, these are designed for you. So, when you get a chance to be in a group like this, ask questions, provide feedback, let us know what we didn't address that you might want to hear more on. Again, we're not the be all end all, but we also just want to be a solid resource for you to help, even if it's just a little bit.
I do want to take this time just to kind of put it out there, that we are more than just a digital marketing company. Sean and I are co-founders of Restoration Sales University. We're going to encourage you guys that when things ramp back up, that you guys watch to be able to attend that, because that's our passion, is to teach people to be successful in this industry. But to your level, our clients are thriving right now because we know how to position ourselves or position your business digitally, which is right now the only way to get in front of companies right now, because you can't go do boots on the ground marketing at this point in time. So if you need some help with your digital marketing to increase your online presence and awareness, position COVID-19 cleaning to a broader spectrum, feel free to reach out to us. And not just for that, guys. We're not just here to sell services. We are here to genuinely be a resource. Whether you're a client or not, reach out to us and we'll be happy to devote time to answering questions you have, provide additional training, providing additional education to make you more relevant in your market space. We are here to serve. It doesn't matter whether you are our client or not. We're here for you. And of course, we want to hear your best practices, because we want to learn from you too, because if we're not learning, we're not growing. So we tremendously appreciate everyone that attended. Thank you so much. Sean, are there any additional questions?
No, I think that's it. Like I said, if you guys do have questions you didn't want to ask them on the webinar, feel free to email them to us. Both of our emails are on the screen right now, so you are more than welcome to email that. Thanks for the feedback. We will continue to develop more webinars on some of the topics that you guys are asking for. And as well as if there's a topic you'd like us to maybe potentially cover, let us know. We would love to hear your feedback, any personal criticism that you have for us. We have thick skin. So, if you felt like we didn't meet your expectations, feel free to let us know. We'd be more than happy. Like I said, if we don't have an answer, we'll find it for you. So hope you guys are having a great week. Please be safe out there. And if you have any questions, like I said, reach out to us anytime.
Thank you, guys. And we appreciate you attending. Have a great week.
Sure.